Hi guys! Welcome back to our podcast for such a time as this. I'm Madeline.
I'm Rachel.
And today we're just so excited. Today's episode is Meet the Hosts.
Woo, woo.
It's a rainy day today. We're in our comfy clothes.
Mm-hmm.
We got our slippers on.
So cute.
And
Obsessed.
And we're definitely so excited for this one. We're so excited for you guys to get to know us better before we start talking about everything under the sun about God. But we just want to, share a little bit more about us. And so today's topic's basically about how we met God, where our relationship with God started, why we choose to follow Him still, and everything about that.
So super excited. Let's get into it.
All right. Where do you want to start?
Let's just start at the beginning. Do you want to start how you got into it first?
Do you want to start? Let's have you start first.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. So I have been pretty much a Christian since like a kid, basically. So I've been going to church since I was little. Even when I didn't want to go, my grandparents were like, "You're coming to church whether you want to or not." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I have ADHD. It's always been very, very hard for me to go to church, especially the church that I went to growing up. It was like from 9 to 12, which was so long. And then to sit there was like insane because I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't focus, all this stuff. But yeah, so I started going very, very early on. I've gone to so many things, Acquire the Fire. I've been to so many camps. It's basically consumed my entire life. At 18, I got saved and made that decision to just walk with the Lord. I went on a mission trip to Jamaica, which is like where I'm from.
That.
Yeah, so it was just such
How
a
did you
beautiful
end up doing that?
experience. So I was actually through the church that we go to, and we did a YNG night, and which is like what the youth group was called, and they were like, so we're doing this one specifically for young adults, and I was like, oh my goodness, and it was super exciting, and my parents were gonna throw me like a party and like have everybody over, and I was like, no, like I don't know, and my parents were like, well, we can either do this or we can do like a graduation big party for you and everything. And I was like, no, I want to go to Jamaica. Like I want to go there. I was like, especially because that's where like my family is from. I was like, I definitely want to be able to experience what that is and see it out there and everything. And then like to do God's work in Jamaica, like
That is really
incredible.
cool that you did that. I had no idea.
Yeah. So
And I had no idea our church offered stuff like that.
yeah. So there's one coming up in October as well, I believe. So
Okay,
check
we'll have to
that
talk
out.
about that later.
Yes. But so I ended up doing that, just absolutely like all in for Jesus and everything. And then I kind of like fell out a little bit when I turned 22. There was just a lot going on, like mentally and like spiritually, and I ended up just getting pulled away for about a year, which was like, when I tell you like the worst year of my life, like the worst year of my life. There was so much going on, got involved in a lot of things that I shouldn't have been involved in, with people that I shouldn't have been involved in, and it just like kind of derailed me a little bit. And I stopped going to church, but I never stopped believing. I never stopped praying. And it's funny because you always still feel Him no matter what you're doing. Like you just like anytime something happened, I was just like, okay, God, like I'm here, like I'm still here. I don't know. And like I would just pray that all the time and just be like, I'm sorry, and I don't know, and I just need some friends, and I just need some like holy friends, you know. Cut to, I ended up breaking up with the person that like kind of pulled me away, and like God will literally like take people out of your life like nobody's business. Like that I feel like is an expedited prayer. Like that is crazy. And when I felt like, it's so funny because what they say about this is true, because what I felt was falling apart, God was actually building me up.
And He puts people in your life to learn certain things.
Yes, and for seasons, and like again, I'm blessed for what I've been through, because now I know what, like, now I'm looking forward and I now know that I don't want that anymore. You know what I mean?
You have to go through
you have
something.
to go through some stuff to
know,
realize.
Yeah,
Yes.
someone telling you, hey, like, you know, like this
Yes.
isn't the best idea. You're gonna be like, yeah, well, I'm still gonna do it. You actually have to be in that position to be like, I don't like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was crazy. And I look at my life now and I'm just like, it's just peaceful and it's just beautiful. And like, I got saved again because I just felt like that was something in my heart that I had to do. Like, and obviously, like, once you're saved, like, but for me, it was just kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like, rededication, basically, to God. And yeah, and it just, life has just been fantastic. And I feel like things, once I got my verse actually, but once I really I put God first, like, everything just fell into place. Like, I remember, this is so embarrassing to say, but I just have to tell you because I think it's so funny. So before I met Andrew, that's my boyfriend now, but before I met Andrew, I prayed this prayer, and I was so scared to pray this prayer, Maddie, because I was like, anytime I go out, I get free drinks. So, like, I was so nervous to pray this prayer. And now I don't really go out anymore anyway, but, like, in the moment, like, you're like, oh my God, like, this is a scary prayer to pray. And
it's a big girl prayer, and if it really happens,
it's
then,
crazy.
like, God's like, yeah, stop it,
stop.
or keep going,
So,
whatever the topic's about.
So, basically, anytime, like, I got super nervous for this prayer. And I was like, okay, God, like, you know what? Moving forward, I'm like, I don't want to talk to any guys. I'm done with dating. I never want to talk to, like, anybody again. Dating is terrifying, and I don't want to do it. Shield me from any man that is not my husband. And that was a scary, bold prayer. That was a scary, bold prayer. And when I tell you, after I prayed that prayer, I think it was, like, maybe 2 months, I met Andrew. And I was like,
I got chills. That's
whoa,
crazy.
like, that is insane. And I prayed that man away 8 times. And I was like, okay, God, like, I'm not attached yet, so if you want to take him out, you could take him out, and then it'll be a clean break. Like, I don't have emotionally, like, I'm not, like, there yet. We've only been talking for a week, 2 weeks, so I'm not there yet. And I was just so terrified. And even 6 months in, I was like, stay there because I'm scared. Like, I just got so nervous all the time. And now today it's been a year with him.
Right.
And it's been amazing. And it's been the best year of my life. And he's coming to church with me, and, like, we're just literally living for God. And it's such a beautiful thing to have in a relationship. It's just a very pure relationship.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just crazy how God sent you guys together, and it's like you guys' intentions at the beginning probably wasn't to go to church together.
Yeah.
His intentions probably wasn't that, and yours wasn't that, but through God and centering him in the center, it was able to happen where you guys are both, like, doing this walk together. You guys are growing yourselves, but also into a relationship together for God, and I think that's just beautiful.
And that's just kind of, like, on my walk back, like, it's just been one thing after another. And, like, it's crazy because I went to last year I started working at, like, a Christian daycare for, like, kids, and I felt like that's where God needed me to be. And then I went on, like, the camping trip and everything, and then after that it just kept gradually, like, he just kept blessing me and, like, little things.
And my question is, if you want to talk about it, where did you get saved and how did you get saved?
So I got saved the first time I got saved at Beach Bash through the church, which is like a big summer bash where a bunch of people go to a beach and you get baptized at the beach.
That is so
and
beautiful.
It is such a that first baptism, my first baptism when I was 18, around there, I just, it was so beautiful because the way that I felt going under the water and coming back out of the water, and the sunshine, hit, and my eyes were closed, but I could just see, the light, and I could feel it, and it was just an amazing experience, beautiful experience. And then when I got saved, my rededication, basically, still had that same exact feeling. like, it was just kind of like, wow, welcome back. Like, and I remember having people, like, I went back, so, can I talk about this really fast? Like, when I first went back. So, when I first went back to church, this was, like, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. This was when I was 22. Okay. This was right after, like, freshly after my breakup. Okay. And I was like, I need Jesus. I need to feel like I am with my people. Like, I just need to feel like maybe I'll see my friends again from when I went there. And I was so scared because I was just like, I don't even know what people are gonna think of me. Like, I left for a year. Like, I'm back and all this stuff. And when I tell you, like, I was literally about to leave because it was like the prayer room and then the door. And one of my friends, she saw me and she's like, I know you're not leaving without saying goodbye. And I was like, hi, like, how are you? Like, and then I saw one of my good friends. And then I saw one of my really good friends, Sarah, who I sing with. And she saw me and she's like, hi. And I looked at her and I instantly just started sobbing and like got into everything of what was going on and what happened. And both of them, they just looked at me and they prayed over me. And
that's exactly what friendships are.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah. And it was just not what I was expecting going back to church. Yeah. Like, I just thought that I was going to be like banished or like,
you're coming
now
back
you're
now.
coming back.
Yeah.
Like, your life was in shambles and now you're coming. No. And it was just like, you're home. Yeah. And that's exactly the point that like Jesus wants us to get is like, don't run away from me, come home.
Yeah, just
I'm not mad at
what you did.
Come home.
Yeah.
Yes. And I just thought that was
beautiful.
the most beautiful thing.
And I love that about our church specifically because I know there's churches out there and a lot of people do have church hurt and it's like their one experiences from this one church has like completely shifted how they think of church. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful for the church that we go to because our church is so welcoming and no one ever is like, oh, you weren't here last week, like shame on you.
What happened? Like,
it's
are
more,
you okay?
Yeah,
like,
it's more like, can we help you?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And same what you said about Jesus, like that's the same type of relationship that Jesus offers too. It's like, you've been far, but I have never left. Yeah. I just need you to pray to me and tell me that you are here. Yeah. And I will be here with you. Yeah. I never left. Yeah. It's just you're thinking. It's just you're overthinking it like, oh, God's mad at me. Like, no, like what Pastor says all the time, he's not mad at you, he's mad about you. He just wants to be with you and have a relationship with you. And I just thought like when I like put that into perspective of like seeing, and it was crazy because the friend that I saw and like that I talked to, she doesn't go to that church. So it was just like a coincidence that she was there. God put her there for that day, for that specific
she does not
reason.
go to that, she does go to the church, but she doesn't go to that campus.
Yes.
So it was just like, that was crazy that she saw me and came over to me, and then Sarah saw me and she was like, oh my God, like, hi. And I just was like, oh my goodness, like, this is just a beautiful, beautiful moment. Like, so,
that is crazy. Yeah. And that's an amazing, like, testimony about how you were saved and everything. I love that.
Thank you. Yes. How about you?
So, for me, I was just actually, like, we planned on talking about this. So I was like thinking in my head, like, what do I say? Because I don't have a definite, like, oh, I knew, like, this is the day that I got saved type of thing. So same as you, kind of different though. I grew up in a big family home with my family. So I grew up with my mom, but we also grew up with my grandparents, my cousins, and my aunts. We're all in the same house. So it was a big family home. And we all kind of, like, did our own thing. But my grandmother was Catholic and my grandfather was Christian and my mom didn't go to church either. So it was just me kind of doing my own thing, living my life as like a young 7-10-year-old, whatever. And I don't know when it started or how it started, but I just remember my grandfather was like, you want to come to church? I think, I'm assuming, because I don't know how else I would have got there because he went there. So when I was younger, I started to go with him. And we went to a Christian church, and it was nice because I honestly, at that age, you don't really know what's being talked about or anything, but you just feel the community, and it felt really nice. And I also met another lifelong friend there. Her grandfather also took her there, and we kind of grew up together. And I remember this church is a really small church. It's not the church that we go to now, but it's a smaller church. and it was majority of older people and older couples and things like that. So there was not a lot of kids there. And so I remember there was this one guy, his name's Jonathan. I'll forever remember him because he really, I believe, shaped me and like helped me know who God and Jesus was. And he would take me and my friend, it was just us two because we were the only kids at this church, in a room, and he'd do like youth groups with us, and he would teach us verses and teach us stuff. And I don't remember a lot of the things we did, but I will never forget he made me remember the verse John 3:16, and that always, it's like the common one that everyone knows. And I just remembered that, and I remember he would also take us to like sleepover church, like get together things. Yeah. And then one time, I don't know if this was also through another couple at the church, but we went to this camp all the way up in Maine. And I know for a fact that's where I met Jesus. I found who he was, I found myself, and I just fell in love with the environment, and I didn't know why. Like, still, you're a kid. At least for me, like, my head was all over the place. I wasn't like, oh, this is it. Like, I know exactly what's going on here. I just felt good. I felt happy. And I've been there, I think my first year I went was 2013, and I was younger. And then I went, I think, 3 or 4 more times as I grew up over the years. And I just remember, like, this camp is amazing, okay? So, like, I don't know about you, but I love, like, Christian camps are, like, phenomenal. I don't know if people have ever been to them, but if you have, like, you can attest to this, because, like, it's just so fun. Like, you're surrounded by people who love God, who just want to shed positivity. You know, we play games, we do campfires.
The games there, I will say, like, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're
the
good.
games at church camp are no joke.
They're fun,
Like,
they're competitive. I tore my ACL at this camp, by the way, one year.
Insane.
Like, it's intense. We play some fun games. Like, we used to do, like, stuff in the woods. You'd be on, like, literally zip lines, and you have to walk across it, hold hands with, like, 10 people, and you have kids of all sizes trying to balance on this thing, and it's a team effort, and they really show you what it means to have a community. And you have no phones. No one's allowed to have a phone. You just have to talk to each other. And I love that part.
It was such a awesome.
Like, if I was a kid again, that's where I would want to go, because like you grow up and you they don't do it for adults. Like, I want to go. Like, we should make it. Make a adult camp, because like,
it's insane.
It is. And obviously too, they talk about God in a way that kids can understand, because most churches lack that. I'm not saying all do. Ours definitely doesn't. Ours has the kids part, but like they really hone in on how do we get to the kids of all these ages, and they even have like younger kids camp weeks, and then the like juniors and somewhat adults. But then when you turn 18,
then
they're
it's
like,
like,
goodbye,
okay,
you've grown
and
up.
then it's like you have to do like the young adult stuff, which is fun, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
And the food there was amazing. Like, oh my gosh.
I just remember, like, because I was a youth group leader last year.
I want to do that.
And it was so fun. And I was like, the only thing that I like was saying in my head was like, I wish I did this when I was a kid, because they let like the youth leaders like play in the games too, and like participate, and I was like, this is so awesome.
It's
like,
fun, because then
so fun.
For us, we had 2 counselors. We usually had a boy and a girl, and they would participate, and you're like, oh, she's really good at this, we're gonna use her. And we can only use her once, or use them once a week, because it's a week-long thing, but you can only use them like once out of that whole week, and you better use it on the thing that they're good at. Like,
exactly.
it was so fun.
It's so funny.
But
I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, camp is amazing, and like, for sure, when I have kids, if I get to have kids, God willing, like, I want them to go to this camp, because this camp's amazing, and I wish, like, I had the opportunity, maybe I still can, go back and be a counselor there, because, like, I love this place. This place literally changed my life. And I don't remember, again, the exact moment when it happened, but through the years, like, I've built so many friendships, and unfortunately, we don't get to see each other because we're states away. But, like, this place, like, I have met so many amazing friends, and that I still sometimes, we reach out and we're like, hey, how are you? Like, boys and girls, like, we just bond so deep, and then we go by the campfire. And actually, I can say that this is actually one time that I was like, wow, this is real. Like, you have, like, it's quiet, right? It's like completely quiet. You can hear the fire crackling, and you can hear the wind and the trees and the ocean, not the ocean, oh my gosh. Not the ocean, the lake.
The lake.
The lake. We have a lake, so
The ocean.
Oh my gosh.
so there's the lake, and you can hear the ripples.
Yeah.
So just painting the scenery here, and it's
Mhm.
quiet, and my the director there, he would always have all the counselors go up and talk about their testimonies because they're older and they've been through life, but they can really pour into the younger kids. And I just remember like a few of them had their testimonies, and I was sitting there and I was like, I can relate so hard to like a few of these people, and you have literally like, and this is not to say anything bad, like this is real and this is good. I don't think it's a wrong thing to have like the kids were crying, and it's not like a sad like, oh, we hate this place. It was like they're literally realizing that their feelings matter, and how they're feeling someone else feels, but they're choosing to put it towards God and have God help them fix it. And I thought that was so beautiful, and I love that, and that's what I held on to, and I'm still holding on to, of like why I still follow Jesus, because I'm like, they did it and I can see where it got them, and like now I'm doing it and I can see where it's getting me. And I think it's just amazing because these kids, like even me, I was the kid. It was like I was sitting there, and it wasn't like I was again crying because I was like, this is awful, I hate hearing these things. It was like a lot of these kids are coming from homes that their parents, especially like in my family too, like we don't talk about these things. We don't get deep. We don't talk about what we struggle with. Some of the kids are struggling with their family. And like you come to this place and it's a safe space, and we're all talking about our problems, and we're all trying to fix them together. And like the worst part about this all is when you leave, because it's called the bubble. Basically, you have this bubble. This is what we called it.
Oh, the
It's
bubble.
like you have this fire inside of you for Jesus.
And then it's like you get back home and you're like, what do I do?
You feel
like,
so out of place, and then you feel holy for a few days, and then the bubble pops, and you're back into reality, and you go back to your own life. And I remember, for me, this happened multiple times, multiple years. However, the last year when I was 18, I went and I brought Hunter, which is my boyfriend now. We went together, and that was really cool, because to grow with someone who has no idea at the time about who Jesus was, like he got to see how I grew up, and like the way I grew up, and he and his sister too, and they loved it. And his cousin, actually, I'm sorry.
Oh,
so
that's so
a couple of
cute.
them, I brought them all, and I was like, you guys need to come. This is fun. Like it's a week, like you don't like
Don't get
it.
your phone, but
It's
it's
fun.
worth it.
It was so worth it, and we all had so
Yeah.
much fun. Like you meet the goofiest people, and you just have so much fun. And what I'm trying to say is that this time I went with Hunter, it was different because we were older. We knew what we were going for. We knew like God is real, and this is not just a time to come and play games. Like we're learning about the Bible. We're learning like who Jesus and God is. And when we left, it was the same thing. That bubble did pop, and for a little bit, we were off. And then that led to the car crash that I talked about last episode. And that's really when it clicked for me, when I was like, okay, am I going to choose to run after God, or am I going to choose to keep living like this? Because every time I'm living like this without Him in it, I am sad, I am lonely, I am depressed, I feel anxious, I feel angry, I feel all the things that I've ever felt in my life, like all these like emotions. And I'm not saying these are things that people struggle with, and they're not always bad. It's like sometimes you need a bad day to know a good day. But for me, like I was struggling hard, and I didn't really have anyone to turn to, and like everyone's always gonna lead you down. Like you have friends, and some friends can speak life into you, but the only person who will never let you down is God. He will never let you down. And it clicked for me. I don't know. I think it was that. I think it just clicked, and I was like, okay, I know I was saved some along the line at that camp, and I knew God. And just like you said before, way back, you were like, I always believed. I never stopped believing. I just stopped like chasing after Him. And that's what it was for me too. I always have believed because of, just going to church, seeing my grandfather's testimony, seeing like just so many people's testimonies in front of my eyes. I believed it. He was real, but I didn't know it for myself until like the car crash. I think that's what did it for me. I was like, okay, he's real. He just saved my life, and I want to pursue him. And ever since I pursued him, like you were saying, he's changed my life. Like I have so much joy in chaos. I have so much joy when things are not going the way that I think they should be going. And like I've met so many friends. Me and Hunter's relationship stronger than ever. Yeah. And just life's great. Yep. So good. So I think that's what my testimony would be.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Really, really is. Like, I think it's so crazy to think about like the joy and chaos, like what you were saying. Like, it really is. Like, there's just a different peace. Like, after everything that happens, like you're like, okay, like it's fine. Like, it's happening because like of God's will. Like, this is just a part of it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Oh my goodness.
I know. And like going off joyous chaos, like we can talk about today, for example. It just came in my head. Like today's raining. Okay, it's raining. A lot of people hate the rain. Yeah. I do not. Yeah. I'm a weirdo. I think rain's awesome. It allows stuff to grow. Yeah. It allows stuff to die that needs to die too. But really, it allows plants to grow. If we didn't have the rain, we wouldn't have the grass, the flowers, the trees that we think are beautiful. Yeah. And on top of that, if there was no rain, then we would complain that there was no rain, right? So you need to have a bad day, like I was saying already, to have a good day. And like I just posted this on like my Instagram.
Gonna say, was it you that posted that?
Yeah.
'Cause I was like, I think that was that's perfect.
I forget what the saying is. It's something like I prayed for God to have me grow. That's what it was. I prayed to God to have me grow, and He gave me rain. Yeah. And it just puts a perfect picture because you're right. You need the rain for a plant to grow. Same thing. I need to go through something hard, really hard, for me to be able to grow. And if that's either through people telling me I'm doing something wrong, either if that's like, oh, I know I did something wrong, I need to figure it out on my own, or even God, I'm praying to you, I messed up, and then He gives you another situation to mess up, but instead you choose not to, in a sense, and you choose to grow. Yeah. So that was just, I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
I love
that was
that
so
right
awesome.
now.
I saw that and I was like, oh, I love that. Like,
And then the song Firm Foundation, if anyone
Yes.
loves. Rain Came,
oh my
Wind Blew.
God, that song, like every time we sing that on stage, I'm like crying.
Yeah.
Just instant tears. Like,
You know it's a verse in the Bible,
Yeah.
right? Like I forget where it is, but it just basically saying like Jesus was speaking to the people when He was here, and He was like, if you build your house on a rock, and obviously God is that rock, your house, when the rain comes and the wind comes, it won't fall down. But if you build it on sand, I think that's how it is.
Yeah, sand or dirt.
Sand or dirt, meaning like if you build it on the worldly desires, then your house, like your temple, your own body, like your emotions, how you feel, you're gonna fall down every time because you have no one to be there for you. Because people, unfortunately, like I said, we have great friends, but people let us down all the time. And that's what I mean. Or even like if you're someone who's like obsessed with your cars, obsessed with your phone,
everything will let you down. Like,
materialistic things. They'll let you down sometimes, but God will never let you down because His word never changes. It's the same. And everything in here, like everything in here, like you can't erase it. Like it's in here. And like if He's saying He loves you, He's not one day gonna say, I don't love you anymore. Like a person could. So that's what that song too, like Rain Came, Wind Blew, My House Was Built on You.
Oh, so good.
So good. Sorry.
I love that song so
I'm just
much.
going off. Like.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And so like going off of like knowing everything in here is true and will never change. How can we, I guess, tell our audience how we see God and how we use the Bible to like get us through stuff?
Yeah. I have so many, I have so many stories about this. So I remember when I was first starting to read the Bible, this is like a crazy story, and this has never left me, and like this is how I just like, there are so many things that I could say that I'm just like, this is how I know Jesus is real, but this is like one of them, because I was very like not new into like believing, but like I was 18 at this time, and I was just starting to go to like the youth group and everything, and like the young adults youth group. And I remember like something was mentioned about like Proverbs, and I was like, okay. And like the entire time I was at church, they were talking about Proverbs, and I was like, okay, maybe like God is telling me to read Proverbs. Fantastic book in the Bible, by the way, if you haven't read it. But anyway, so I remember just being downstairs, like in my room and everything, and I'm like, okay, like God, like maybe I should just read Proverbs. Like maybe that's what you're telling me. When I tell you, I opened my Bible, like the Bible has so many books. Like you cannot, like I did not just flip to Proverbs. Like I flipped to the chapter Proverbs, the beginning chapter of Proverbs, and I was like, okay, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So like it is insane. Like anytime like I'm trying to like hear God more, I immediately am like, okay, God, like I will put on a sermon. I would like open my Bible, scroll through the sermons because they're just under the suggested page, and I would be like, okay, God, like what do you want me to hear? And I would just click one, and immediately it was like it would correlate with whatever I was reading in the Bible, and I'm like, oh my, like this can't, like this is not a coincidence. Like God is actually like speaking to me. And like I remember this one video. I think it was like Michael Todd. I'm not sure like what the title of it was, but there was this one where he was saying like, not basically like when you plant a seed, it doesn't start sprouting right away. Sometimes it has to start sprouting and growing from in the soil, and that is what God is trying to do in and through you. Sometimes you need to start like basically getting that layer in and growing inward before you can shoot out outward. And I just thought that was such a beautiful thing, and it correlated with like the Holy Spirit and the fruits of the Spirit and what I was reading, and I was just like, oh my goodness. So like I was like, wow, this is what God is trying to do in and through me.
Yes.
So I just thought that was such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and as you were saying that, I remember this verse that I actually saw last night, and it's in Hebrews 4. And the first line I'm just going to read. In Hebrews 4:12, it says, "For the word of God is alive and active."
wow.
And you hear people say this all the time.
Yeah.
You hear people say, oh, the word of God's real. The word of God's real. And I just said that twice, sorry. The word of God is real and alive. And the way they're talking about it, it's actually saying like, if you literally pray to God, if you go, God, please, I am struggling with this. Can you please just tell me or show me like something and that I can look forward to, or just help me get through this tough time. And you literally just have to go, and it's crazy, but it's like, it will be there because God speaks to you. And like, it could be through a person too. Like you could see a person and like hear something. It's called a pathetic word. Like you can hear someone just say something, hey, like you're having a bad day, but for some reason, like it could be a friend who is also like a Christian.
Like, oh, for some reason, like I really felt the need to reach out to you. Like, are you doing okay? Like, it's insane, and that is God. Like,
that's what we believe, because there's no way that you can just pray and then all of a sudden, you know, like your prayer gets answered. It's just how it works. And like there's other prayers too where you can like, I pray for this person who, whatever. Like I pray that they have love today. I pray that God shows them love today. And then they're like, guess what? Like someone bought me flowers. And you're like, oh, okay, my prayer works. Like, or someone's like having a bad day and they're like, I was like really stressed. Please pray for me. And then you go and you pray for them for a whole week, and then you're like. And then they're like, oh, like, my stress has been so good lately. And it's like, okay, so my prayer worked. But, like, that verse is so cool because you always hear people say it, you know? The word is alive. And it's like, I didn't know.
I didn't know that. That's, like, so, like, shocking to me because I really didn't know that that's what it said in there. So now, like, all those times that that's happened to me, like, he's legit speaking. Like...
And I think it's cool that, like, everything people say, like, little sayings here and there, like, oh, cross your fingers, you know, take a deep breath, like, things like that, like, oh, everything happens for a reason, like, those sayings come from the Bible. They're orchestrated differently because they're worldly, like, orchestrated to, like, a different saying, but most things that you say, like, to help someone get through a bad day, God created a specific way for you to say it, he created a certain way for you to speak it, to live it, and to like tell other people about it. Sorry, I couldn't get that out.
No, that's okay.
I'm
That's
like,
okay.
But what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, and another thing cool about it too is like back to what you were talking about, like how like you'll watch something and it's like God spoke to you.
Yeah.
You could read a verse or a passage in your Bible every day. But one day you read it again in something different.
And it's something different.
Something different
Which
sticks
is
out.
insane. Which is insane. I'm like, there are so many chapters that I've read, and I'm like, whoa, like, in different days, like, those same chapters that you read could mean something completely different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so cool because obviously we're human. When we read something, some of us are really good. Photographic memory can remember everything, but some of us like will be like, oh, yep, whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you'll read something one day and you're like, oh, I never knew that was in there.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
this verse, and you're
Yeah.
like, wait a second, like that's mind blowing
Yeah.
because like people say this,
Yes.
but you don't know it actually comes from
Yeah.
the Bible.
Yeah.
And like everything does. And like if we want to get back into like what we were going to talk about is our favorite verses. I have a perfect one.
Yeah. I want to know
Okay.
yours.
So my verse of the year, I would say, is 1 Corinthians 13. It's a very popular one. It's about love. And the reason why I bring this up, I'm going to read it, and then I have a second verse that kind of like goes off of it. But let me get there. Basically, 1 Corinthians 13 is talking about all about love. And there's another verse in the Bible that talks about how love is the root, like, of everything. Like, if you don't have love, you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So I'll read this verse, and this is actually a very popular verse, and people might not know that this is biblical, but it is. And so the part that I'm going to read, it starts 1 Corinthians 13:4. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. That's the famous verse.
That verse.
Love never fails.
Love that verse. And I saw this thing. You might know this, but I saw this thing. I think it was like on Instagram or Pinterest or something. When you are looking for like your significant other, if you're like, oh, I think that this is the one. I really think that like he's the one. I did this with like Andrew, and like I would read that verse with his name inserted. And like that's how I knew like
That
he was
is
the
so
one. And I was like,
good.
because he aligns with every
Yeah.
single one of them.
I could say the
Yeah.
same thing about Hunter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And
I love that verse.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful
And that verse is very like lovey-dovey, but it goes so much deeper because love is in everything, and we all desire to be wanted. Sorry, we all desire to want to be loved.
Yeah.
We all want to feel loved, and we all should want to give love to others. Because there's some people that just don't.
Yeah.
They're like, no.
Yeah.
But I have my days.
yeah. We all been there.
But basically, like, yeah, you want to feel loved, and like, where does that love come from? Like, God laid it out for us what love is. Like, what we think of love is what God created love to be.
Yeah.
And I think when relationships start to strive off and away from what God called love to be, it crumbles, it falls. That's with family, like relationships, friendships, intimate relationships. Like, if you don't have love for each other in the way that God has set love to be, which is that verse, that is what love should always be about. And it's hard because we're human and we're not perfect, and we cannot do all those things correct all the time. But if you remember what it means to love someone, it is easier to show them love. And that's just that's what us Christians are, and that's what being a Christian is.
Yes.
And
wow.
yeah, it is, because if you can't love someone, you're gonna be mean. And I have my days. I can say that's something that I struggle with for sure, is like I have a lot of mean days, and something I'll always be working on, because that's just part of being a human. You're not perfect. But us Christians, we love to share love, and this is what Jesus had called us to do, and this this is what Jesus was all about. He was all about loving others. No matter who you are, what race you were, where you came from, what you did in the past, what you're going to do, like he loved you.
Yes.
And we are called to love each other too.
Yep.
So that verse I live by. If I'm not being like slow to anger, if I'm being boastful in my relationship, if I'm being not kind, if I'm being these unlikely things, I'm not showing love to the other person. And the other comment saying, treat others the way you want to be treated, is also biblical, which I can't think of the actual verse comes from in my head, but like that's biblical, guys. And like that is what the book is saying, is this is what love is, treat others you want to be treated.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
Yes, there's one more thing I have to add to that. In Colossians, it says, where are we here? Colossians 3, we are in verse 13, a little bit ways down. It says, forgive as the Lord forgave you, and over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. And if you read that whole passage, there's a lot here, but to put some context to this, it's really just telling you to like everything you're doing in life, like if you put on the act of those things that God says love is, there won't be any problems with loving someone and having a relationship. So I just wanted to mention that verse because that verse just like puts it in stone, like you should put on love. Put on being kind, put on, being slow to anger, put on not boasting in your relationship.
Yeah,
I just
that's
wanted
beautiful.
to. That's my
love
verse.
that.
I live by that verse.
I love that, Maddie. That's awesome.
And I cry sometimes because I'm like, wow, I was not loving today. And it gets you because you're like, I don't know. I just think like it's crazy. If you have never picked up the Bible before, if you have never read the Bible, I really consider you doing it. And I know it's scary and I know you're like, where do I start? Like, what do I do? But like, man, like, God laid it out for us, like how to love people, and not even just the topic of love.
Just
like
an instruction manual.
Yes, it literally is. It tells you how we got here, how we're gonna end, and everything in between.
Did you see? So I just saw this video, and I actually posted it on my Instagram a few days ago. And there was this guy. He was literally had like Lego set basically, and you know how you get the little Lego like instruction manual in there. He was like. He basically took everything out of the boxes and took the little instruction manual. And he said, living without Jesus and living without reading the Bible is basically saying, like, I don't need this anymore for the Lego set.
Love
and
that.
Throwing it away. And I was just like,
that's good.
And then he's like, okay, well now I have all these pieces and now I don't know what to do with them. So now I guess I'm just going to build it on my own. And you don't get what it looks like on the picture if you're just like going about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just thought that was amazing.
That is
like,
a really
I
good
saw
connection.
that and I was like, that is incredible. Like,
yes,
an incredible
100%.
thing.
I agree with that 100% because my life before I decided to have a relationship with Jesus is so different, and like just in general, like reading this book, like I know how to treat other people. I know how to treat myself. I know how to see certain situations.
You know what he says about you when you're feeling like I feel like I'm not good enough.
When no one's there for you.
When no one is there for you.
He is there for you.
Yes.
And there's so many verses in here and stories and testimonies of people who actually lived in the way like past. Like it goes in deep and like just give it a shot, guys. Do you want to talk about your favorite verse before we end it? Because this is definitely long.
I know.
We have so much to talk about.
And
we will go in depth with every little thing, like caveat that we like went into. But like,
okay, so I guess like my favorite verses would have to be still and know that I am God. I think that's Psalm 46:10. Just be still and know, because I am like I grew up being such like a warrior, and I'm like, okay, but like how is this gonna work? And I say that I'm not anymore, but I so am, and it's actually insane, and I overthink.
We all do it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I overthink every little thing and everything I say and everything I do, and I'm just like, after hearing that be still and know verse, like that will always pop in my head every single time I'm worrying, and it's just God being like, I am here, I know the plans that I have for you, and I have them to, not harm you, but to prosper you and to make you better. And just like, I just
That's
absolutely love that. And like, because I know that he is the author of my story, and it's still being written. And I just know that every little thing is going to be okay. Like, I just know that because I trust him, and I just love that one. And then another one that I love is, I think I said it earlier, the seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added on to you.
That's
And
a
I
great
just
one.
love that one because once I started putting Jesus first, and like once I literally started just following him, I felt like my life was just like just starting, just beginning, and I just
There's so much in
absolutely
store for
love
us.
that. Like, I really feel like he is just making ways and making way of everything. So those are my two favorites.
Yeah, and I can't find it in the scripture,
Mhm.
but a verse that reminded me about the be still is, don't worry about tomorrow because today
Yeah.
has too much trouble of its own.
Yes.
That verse
Yeah.
hits so much because I worry too. I'm always worrying about
Yeah.
what's to come tomorrow, or like you even say like, oh, see you tomorrow, whatever. But it's like, okay,
It's
no.
like God willing, you know?
Yeah, God
Like,
willing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plan this in like 50 years from now. Like,
Yeah.
can't wait for not 50, maybe
Well,
5.
you know the
like,
saying, like, you make a plan and you hear God laughing? Like, that's
Yeah.
like literally a song.
Because
Like,
there's actually a verse in
and-
here too. I think it's in I can't remember. I think it's Thessalonians. If I had to guess, I could be wrong, but it's just like, who are you
yeah.
to say what's coming tomorrow? No one knows what's
Yeah.
coming tomorrow,
Yep.
and that just, I know it's harsh to hear that, but for me, it's calming.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, if no one knows what's coming tomorrow, why am I worried about
Yeah.
what's tomorrow? Because if you can't, there's another verse too that talks about if you can't enjoy now, you'll never be at peace.
Yes.
That's a verse.
Yes, it is, and that one is insane. Like, that one, I just, I
If you
love
can't
that one.
live in
You
the
can't-
moment,
Yeah.
you won't be at
And
peace.
it's like, go enjoy your life. Like, I
Yeah.
love that one.
Those
Yeah.
are all really good verses,
Yeah.
and like definitely like the ones that we hold to our heart dearly, and
Mhm.
you can see why. And I hope like everything we're talking about, you can understand like, okay, so these are the verses. This is why we like the verses. This is how we can see God working in our lives through these verses, through our lives, our testimonies, and everything like that. And yeah, I think we talked about so much in this episode.
So much, like, that was incredible.
Amazing.
Like,
And
yeah,
I'm so
that was-
excited.
I'm so excited to have this like out, and
Yes.
I'm so excited for you guys to see it, and I hope you loved it, and I hope you enjoyed what we were talking about.
Yes.
I hope that you guys have questions and comments and everything. I want to hear everything, all your thoughts. So please let us know. Thank you so much for joining. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't.
No? All right, then we will see you next time
For
such a time as this. Bye.